Lost a few games, tough. That was District 5. Now we're the Ducks. Yeah. Ducks are undefeated. All right. Quack, 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 quack.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Nerd Culture Podcast. This is our second ever show or second ever podcast show on the podcast. I might have not introduced myself last time. My name is Dan Luque. I am on this podcast. We will have other guests on the podcast coming up within the next week or so. I've been doing a few solo podcasts myself. I have a few ideas. So I will have a couple monikers as well on the on some of my names. So I am going to just go right into it. Sorry if there's any noise here. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to review the Mighty Ducks movies. And not only the movies, but also Mighty Ducks the Game Changers as well. Because it's a show that just came out on Disney Plus and it's in its first season. So it kind of just going to tie everything in together and by it. This kind of hits home to me because it's kind of one of those feel-good movies, but I also played hockey for over 20 years between roller hockey and ice hockey, so I can relate to a lot of things on here. Um, so I'm going to break this down scene by scene because, or just a kind of an overview of scenes and give you some of my thoughts on those scenes. Just because there's been other podcasts and other stuff that have been reviewing these movies, and they're like, "Oh, we review each movie in less than 5 minutes." I can't see how that's possible to review an hour and a half movie or a little over hour and a half movie in 5 minutes. Like, what are you really going to say? Like, there's not much. Like, so there's not much that you can cram. There's too much to cram in actually in 5 minutes. So let's start off because we start off with the Mighty Ducks, and I believe it's they said it was a 1976 championship, but I don't remember. Maybe I misheard them or misunderstood them because later on the banner said 1973 championship. So it was a championship game between the Hawks, and I don't know what their team was. And Gordon Bombay is a kid here. Gordon Bombay is played by Emilio Estevez. We get a few actors and actresses here like Emilio Estevez is one of them. Joshua Jackson is another one. There's some unknowns that we don't really know who they are until like later on. They become more famous later on. This is kind of was like a breaking, uh, basically a they broke into the industry from this movie. So but we know Emilio Estevez was pretty big anyway before that, so he was the big star here. So yeah, we go on there, and Gordon Bombay who was played by Emilio Estevez eventually as older Bombay. He's sitting there in a championship game, and the coach says to him, you know, "No, listen, kid. If you miss this shot and we don't win the championship, you're not only letting me down, but you're letting your whole team down." Oh, ouch, like what a jerk. I'm sorry. But right off the bat, the coach is a jerk. And like I would never, like I played hockey and I would never say that to my teammates like that. Like, if you don't make this penalty shot, you're letting everyone down. Come on. Like hey, like I say, hey man, go, let's go ahead and go ahead and make the penalty shot. And if he doesn't make it, say, hey, good try. Good try. Hey, he's fine, and I would always be proud of my teammates and everything. But yeah, so of course what happens is the kid has a lot of pressure on him, and of course what happens there. I'm watching this, and the goalie's gigantic first of all. And what happens is Bombay goes in, takes a shot, and he hits the post, and he doesn't necessarily lose the game, but he doesn't win the game either. Well, I guess they lose the game because that's a good question because now I'm thinking about it, he doesn't necessarily lose the game. He, I guess he would have, if it's a penalty shot, he would have tied the game. They wouldn't have won the game, but they would have tied the game at that point. So I don't know exactly how they look at that, but anyway, and so it's a disappointing moment, and then we go into Gordon Bombay as a lawyer, and he's on some case. I don't even know what the case was about. It was like some mumbo jumbo lawyer talk. So he was older, he was a lawyer, nothing to do with hockey. And I guess he won his case. He's like 30-0 or 30-1 or something. He makes a big deal about that to his boss, who his boss's name is called Mr. Ducksworth of all things, right? So Mr. Ducksworth is pretty much leading into what we're going to be calling the team later on. So of course, Bombay celebrating his win in court by going out to a bar, and then he's drunk driving. He actually is like in the snow in Minnesota, and he has a beer in his hand, and he's driving his, I don't know if it's a Z28 or Camaro or what it was, but he was driving that, and he was kind of like, he was driving a little recklessly a little bit, right? And spinning out his tires and such. And yeah, and then from there it was like, the cop pulls him over and he slurs his speech a little bit, and and I guess he makes fun of the slurred speech, and the cop basically brings him into court for a DUI. And as simple as that, he gets a DUI, and yeah, so we go into I guess he's told at that point he gets his license taken away, so on and so on. But they're eventually going to go ahead and make him do community service as well. Um, and so now we go to the kids, and we don't really know who the kids are, but they're all in the trash. I guess they're in the alley trash. Well, why are the kids in the trash, first of all, in the middle of the winter? I don't know. Kind of stupid, if you ask me. And then, I guess they're waiting for this, and they get this purse, and then they have put a dollar bill in a purse. And I think they're waiting, they get this dog, and they're waiting for the dog to poop. And they put the poop in the purse with a dollar bill and just put it on the sidewalk. And then, it's kind of a poop in the purse prank, and they're waiting for somebody to come pick it up, and somebody drives by and sees the purse and stops. Well, first of all, how are you seeing a dollar bill as you're driving by over there? I don't even know. Like, why would you even stop? What he takes, but he picks up the purse, he drives away with it, and then he gets mad. The guy gets mad. He throws the purse out because there's poop in there. Then he sees the kids, and the kids run away, and the guy starts chasing after them in his car, and he gets out of his car and starts chasing after them. All right, first of all, this is an unbelievable scene. I understand this is meant to be a comedy skit, but my problem with this scene is you have an adult chasing children that are, I don't know how old they were meant to be, 12, 13, I don't know. Maybe they were younger, maybe they're 8, I have no idea. They could have been the age range. But why are you chasing after the kids, and what are you going to do with them when you catch them? And it was the most silliest thing, because the kids are so small, running away. This guy's running away from him, and eventually he runs into something, falls in the mud, and that's it. So yeah. So we really, after that, Gordon Bombay is going to go ahead and meet the kids on the pond. We really do get introduced to basically Goldberg first. I guess he says his name first, and then he's he's basically your they're playing pond hockey, and he's basically a fat goalie. And I guess the goalies at the time, at that point, were kind of they wanted to make it more of like a stereotype that they put in the a fat goalie in net, and that's kind of what it was back in the day, back then. Like, except for professionals, like if you were playing like in a youth league or something like that, you always looked at the goalie always had to be big or fat or something. That's always what they wanted to do. So he's there, and he's like, he wasn't that good at all. He was just there. And then Gordon Bombay gets on the ice with his limo, and then he gets out of there, and he just basically calls the kids' names out. And then I guess you get Jesse, who is basically your token black kid, talking a little bit smack to Gordon Bombay there. And then Averman is just being like, Averman just being Averman. He's like, the goalie Meister and this and that. It was like so stupid. It was just so dumb. And Averman just basically tells tells Gordon Bombay, the new coach, hey, we really suck. And and then they get to a scene where they're playing on the pond hockey. He's watching him, and he goes, they really suck. And then I guess we start getting introduced to other players now too. Like Connie is a girl on there, and then Charlie is introduced as well. But then the kids get and then Gordon Bombay goes back into the limo, and the kids, I guess, wanted to play a little prank on the new coach, and they start shaking the limo as it's on the ice and all this stuff. And he's like, stop it, stop it, stop it. So he opens the door, and all the kids come in the limo. So he wanted to take and then they're like, oh, take us for a ride in the limo. So he takes them for a ride in the limo on the ice, and then I guess they stop because Charlie's mom comes here, and she gets really mad at them for like putting the kids in danger. I guess they weren't known as the Ducks at this point; they were known as District 5, Team District 5, or something like that, right? And they had like they were during practice, but they had like no equipment whatsoever, which is a funny thing. So we're getting into that now. We cut to another scene of the power team, which is the Hawks, which was the team that Gordon Bombay was on, and he meets his old coach, and he's like, oh, you here to are you here to check us out or something like that? And the coach is like, no, actually, you know. Bombay's like, no, I'm actually here to coach a team, and we're playing against you guys. And he's like, oh, you're kidding, right? He's like, no, I'm not. It's because of community service. And his coach starts laughing at him a little bit, but he kind of wishes him good luck. But this is a jerk coach from earlier. And then we do get introduced, to Adam Banks, who is the powerhouse player on the team of the Hawks. But they have a bunch of players like that. But he's there. A little bit unbelievable because we have a team, District 5 team now, playing against a team called the Hawks from another district. And what's occurring at this point is that it's really weird because you're looking at District 5 and none of them have any pads whatsoever. Like they don't even have any face protection or nothing. So the whole thing is like really stupid. Like I don't even think legally you would be able to play in a youth league that way without that padding. Like there are specific rules that you have to abide by in order to play. So it's really not a believable thing. But I guess they just kind of wanted to make it a little comedic at that point. Um, and the goalie, who's Goldberg, he has no pads at all. So like they keep shooting at Goldberg, and Goldberg like dives out of the way or just gets out of the way because he was afraid of the puck. Like the goalie is afraid of the puck. Like that's what was happening. So so they were scoring lots of goals, and then there was a moment in this game where I guess Jesse and his brother were there, and I don't remember exactly who the kid was in the middle of them, but he was a center. But you had two black kids on the wings, and you have the actual and I hate even using the term black kids, but that's basically what we were meant to believe them to be, right? And we had the white kid in the middle of them, and the Hawks, came up and they go, "Oh, what is this? The Oreo line?" And I'm just shaking my head, and I was like, "That is the most racist thing that you can think of right now. Like you're calling it the Oreo line." And racism does exist in hockey. I don't really want to get too political in my podcast. I don't like talking about politics. I don't like talking about racism because I feel that needs to be kept out of things like this. And I don't really believe in politics too much, and I just think politics suck, and I think racism sucks too, just as much as the next person. But uh, I can give you an experience because I experienced it firsthand when I played hockey. Uh, probably about 10 years ago, or maybe 50, maybe 12 years ago, uh, maybe even before that. But we had a team, and our team logo was a pimp on the jersey, but it was a black pimp. And the referees would eventually start calling us team racism because we had a black pimp on our jersey. But we didn't necessarily think of that as a black person. We just kind of just they thought of that as a pimp, and it just happened to be, the pimps were very stereotypical because they were always normally black. for the most part. And that's kind of, we just wanted to make that way. I mean, we didn't care if it was black, white, or anything. We didn't care about that. Um, so they kept calling us team racism, despite the fact that our team probably had the most diverse players ever, out of any team that we ever played against. So we had plenty of black, Asian, uh, uh, what else? Mexican, Spanish, Indian, all of it. We had all of it, and we had the most diverse team, and everyone that was always diverse actually loved our jerseys, but yet the referees were calling us team racism. But so they were calling us team racism, but yet the referees at the time were actually racist themselves, because of the fact that there were a couple of times, a couple of situations where the referee would call penalty on one of the black players on the team, and the penalty made no sense to me. So I was like team captain, so I would go over there and I would say, "Hey, what was the penalty about?" And he goes, "Oh, don't worry about it." And I said, "Well, you got to explain this to me, because I didn't see anything." And he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "That's typical." And I go, "What do you mean it's typical?" And he said, he just came around and he goes, "Well, this kid deserves to be in the box because he's black." And I'm like, dude, I'm like, that's so wrong. I'm like, you can't be saying shit like that. Sorry, I'm cursing on here. Uh, but you can't be saying that. I'm like, you just told me that. I should get you fired. I'm like, for saying something like that. I don't even want you refing any of our games. And I actually went to the league directors to tell them that, because it really affected one of our black players in the team. He was, he came up to me, because I was the team captain. He came up to me, because you got to do something about this. He goes, "This is ridiculous. This is clear cut racism." And I go, "Yeah." I go, "You're right." I go, "I don't disagree with you." I go, "What can I do?" I'm like, I'm going to complain to the league director, but I can't do anything about it during the game. Like, the referee's not going to change his mind. I mean, clearly that's the case. And it was so horrible. It was such a bad situation to be in. But anyway, they said something like that in the game with the Oreo line, and I thought that was racist as well. So I thought a little racism was in there. At the end of the game, though, District 5 lost to the Hawks 17-0. Uh, Gordon Bombay gets pissed off at the kids. He said, "You're the guys looking like idiots. Why don't you listen to me?" He starts yelling at them. You fine. You guys want to keep, you guys, I tell you guys to go faster, you go slower. I tell you guys to go one way, you go the other way. He goes, "Just listen to me." He goes, "Fine. You were the guys." And the kids are pissed off. They go, "Why should we?" And he's like, "Because I'm the damn coach." And like, he was kind of like getting a little annoyed at the kids. And the kids are like, "Oh, whatever." And he's getting, Gordon Bombay is kind of like, "Fine, whatever." He's like, "You guys play this way. You're the guys that are looking like idiots when you're out there now." And then so we go back to the kids. They go back into the alley again, back out there. They found some boxes with some Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions. So they're like kind of like little horny teenagers, I guess, that are looking at these swimsuit editions. And I guess some players from the Hawks come on their rollerblades, and they kind of bully them a little bit. And we get introduced to Fulton now. Fulton doesn't like the fact that these kids are getting bullied. Fulton looks like a big bully himself. He's gigantic, so he kind of like picks these other kids up from the Hawks, and they kind of like skate away, like, because they're scared of him. And yeah, so that's kind of like, that's how we get introduced to Fulton a little bit there. So we get into another game, and and I guess Gordon Bombay tells all the kids to start learning how to dive, to take falls. And all the kids are trying to take falls. Goldberg starts it off first, and he's like, "Goldberg, you don't fall when you're the goalie. Like, when you're trying." He's like, "Don't." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And then I guess the referees warned him about that, and he told Charlie to take a fall. He said, "Just cover your eye, take the fall." And Charlie didn't do it. And then one of the fathers got mad at Bombay, saying, "Is this what I paid my get my miss my overtime pay for, to learn to see my kid take a fall?" And then Bombay got mad at Charlie a little bit and yelled at him. So it was kind of like Bombay was being a jerk coach at this point. If I'm doing that, I'm probably like, maybe I leave. I don't know. Like, maybe I leave the team if I get a jerk coach like that, right? But anyway, then he saw Hans as well. And he's like, "Is that Hans?" So he goes over to the rink that Hans actually owned. I guess Hans was like, he must have known Hans from somewhere. And Hans starts telling him about, "Hey, you're on these kids' case, but remember, these kids are here to have fun. So make it fun for them." It's basically what he gave the advice. And he reminded Gordon. It was a really nice story actually about this. He reminded Gordon Bombay that, hey, you used to like to have fun. You used to go out on the pond and skate for hours over there. While um, with your dad, your dad was watching you. And you used to have fun on the team as well. I mean, you scored 198 goals. 198 goals is a lot actually to score. I don't know what the size of his team was, or what the league schedule was, how many games he played, but he reminded me he scored 198 goals. He reminded him about his father. His father died, and it kind of affected him after that. After his father died, his playing. But Hans gave uh, uh, Coach Bombay new skates, and then we get a little flashback of Bombay's on the ice first of all, with trying out his new skates, which is really nice, and really nice to see Emilio Estevez skate like that, because I don't know if it was a stunt double from the far away, but if it's not, that's great to see that he knew how to skate, and he skated pretty damn good too, if you ask me. And then then you get into him skating on the ice, and then you get into a flashback with his father, and how young Gordon Bombay wanted to stay out on the ice in the pond to play a little bit longer. And his dad's like, no, you got to come in. He's like, oh, please, Dad, just a little bit longer. And Dad's like, all right, yeah, cool. That's fine. So it was really nice to see something like that. And it kind of brought Bombay into like a little bit more of a thinking, right? So, he went into there, and he in the next scene at this point is he goes to Charlie's house to go apologize to Charlie and his mom, because the mom was a little mad about everything. And as he apologizes, Charlie asks, hey, do you want to stay for dinner? Kind of cute moment, because you can tell Charlie wants his mom to basically he's trying to set up his mom with Coach Bombay, which I thought was really neat, because I guess his mom is single, and he's interested in trying to find somebody for his mother, which I thought was really nice. That was a very nice thing there. And then Bombay, comes back, and he goes back to his lawyer's firm, and he says, hey, I'm looking for some sponsorship. I need $15,000. And then he reminds, the guy that's the head of the firm, Mr. Ducksworth, hey, we're going to name the team the Ducks after you, or something like that. Well, he said, we'll name it after you somehow. And then the firm will be, the firm will look good giving back to the community like this. So like Mr. Ducksworth finally gives them the money. The kids all go and get all these equipment. It's kind of crazy scene. I mean, it was funny to watch this scene, because like, these kids are going crazy, going to this equipment, and they're knocking things around and it's like they've never seen this equipment before. So like they're getting all this equipment, and like nothing's really matching, but it's kind of cute to see in a pro shop on there. And I think he ends up spending like $7,000. So clearly he spent $7,000 out of 15, just to get the kids some equipment. And I will be honest with you, hockey equipment is expensive. I'm not gonna lie. So if anyone ever wants to know how much goalie stuff costs, your helmet may cost you anywhere from $300 to $400. Your chest protector will probably be about $200 in itself. Your blocker will probably be about anywhere from 150 to 200. Your glove probably be about 250. So you're starting to get up there now. And then your pants. Your pants will probably be your cheapest thing. Your goalie skates are actually very expensive. They'll probably be about $250 too. And then your pads will easily be anywhere from $400 to $800 right there. I mean, and that's depends on the brand too. So everything really adds up easily over $1,000 in itself right there. For your regular equipment, it's not too bad. You can get away with the helmet for maybe about $170 to $100. You can probably get away with shoulder pads for you're probably about $80 there. Your pants you could probably spend about $80 on. Your shin guards probably about $50, $60 on. Your most expensive things that you're gonna have. Your gloves will be pretty expensive, anywhere from $150 to about $300. But your skates and your stick are going to be your most expensive pieces. Now you can get good sticks for easily about $90, but if you want a really good stick, you're going to have to spend easily probably about $200. And your skates, I would not go cheap with skates ever. Normally I'd spend about 250 on skates, sometimes a little bit more. So everything does add up, and that kind of makes sense. But again, for the full team, I don't know what the cost was. I didn't do the calculation, but apparently he spent 7,000. So clearly he's spent 7,000 of 15,000. I have to wonder how much of that money he spent and where it went to. But rink rentals too. So they rented out the rink. They found some figure skaters. And they recruited Tommy and Tammy from the figure skaters. Normally, you never want to play hockey on figure skates because it's not that, it probably won't be that easy. I guess you can, but and then they had a little fun practice where they were trying to really go, from there, really try to cradle the egg, I guess. They wanted to not break eggs and try to make things like smooth passes is what they were trying to do with eggs on the ice. A little unbelievable on that part too, because of the fact that you have these eggs on the ice and and they're breaking. What happens now? How do you clean it up? Like the Zamboni's going to clean it up. That's going to get caught in the Zamboni. Like, so I was having a hard time trying to believe how this was happening. Like how did they clean it up? I was really trying to figure that part out and I couldn't. But anyway, and then they finally, Goldberg was so afraid of the puck, and finally they said enough's enough, and they tied Goldberg to the goal, and it just started shooting pucks at him until he wasn't afraid of the puck, and finally he's like, "I'm Goldberg, the goalie!" So he was like, he wasn't afraid of the puck anymore at that point, right? So at that point, they got him a little bit more confident. So they went from being a sucky team to eventually being a team that was going to be better. And here's why they started getting better. So they did a couple things. They went ahead and they recruited Fulton. Fulton was apparently not supposed to be playing ice hockey because of some football scholarship or something, right? And I guess they that's what they said. And I guess Fulton was doing something, I guess shooting, and he shot a puck or shot something at the limo, at Coach Bombay's limo, and broke a window. And Bombay came around, and he went to Fulton, and like Fulton thought, he's like, "I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean it, blah, 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 blah." And he's like, "No, forget that. Forget the limo." And he's like, "Do that again." And the slap shot was so outrageously great. Like it was like the hardest slap shot I've ever seen. Like it is unbelievably great. Like I would probably, if you go back around that time, think Al Iafrate from the Washington Capitals. This kid had a better slap shot than Al Iafrate. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, this is legitimately impossible that this kid had this like this. I'm like, I would be scared out of my mind in goal if I were to see a slap shot like that come my way, because I probably would get hurt. Because that's how great it was. But and he goes, "You want to play hockey?" And he's like, "Can't." And he's like, "Oh, come on, why not?" He's like, "You got to get shot, this and that." He goes, "No, I can't." And he's like, "Okay, forget about that scholarship thing." And he's like, "No, I can't." He's like, "What do you mean you can't?" He goes, "I can't skate." So they went ahead and they tried to teach Fulton how to skate by putting him on rollerblades, and they all skated through the mall, which is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Rollerblading through a mall, like really, I'm like, first of all, you're going to get kicked out of the mall. So it's again another unbelievable comedic moment where they, which just wasn't happening. So yeah, they went ahead and they started with the they I guess at that point afterwards the kids got in some trouble or something like that. No, they didn't get in trouble yet. They went ahead and and I guess Coach Bombay went ahead and got the jerseys, and they're like, "We're known as the Ducks." And like, they're giving him a hard time. "I don't want to be known as a duck. What is a duck?" And he went into what a duck means, like, how ducks are a flock and this and that and that. And they're like, "Oh, the Ducks are a weak thing." And 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 I guess they were they started with the whole thing, and they were like, "Well, who wants to be and he finally gives like emotional speech, like, there's this pep talk speech, like, to get people excited to be a duck. And he's like, "Who wants to be a duck?" I mean, the jerseys were cool. I thought the jerseys were cool. They were the green Ducks jerseys, the first ever jerseys we saw for the Mighty Ducks. And And if I'm a kid, I'm excited to get a free jersey, first of all, and especially when a team doesn't have a collaboration like that. I'm excited. I'm excited to get that jersey. I'm excited to all look the same because now we all look the same, and we all look like a team now. Finally, and finally, who wants to be a Duck? And Fulton says, "I want to be a Duck," and he's because like I guess there was kind of like a little moment there where you can tell like he's happy that somebody's trying to help him out, right? Which is really neat. And I guess he said, "I want to be a Duck," because he was proud. He was proud to be part of that team. And then Charlie's like, "I'll be a Duck," and then everyone else started, "I'll be a Duck. That's fine." And then they had the Quack chant, which you heard earlier in the start of this podcast. So the Quack Quack Quack, he gave he gave the speech that you heard. We're undefeated because we're the Ducks now. And then they did the Fulton had his slap shot moment, but he didn't take the slap shot. He took a fake slap shot, and then I guess it was Jesse that scored the first goal. Was it Jesse? I think it was Jesse that scored the first goal. And then and they tied the game 2-2. So it was a tie game. And that was great. And the Ducks were really happy. They became a better team because they were now the Ducks. Now, do I find these little moments believable? No, not normally. I mean, when I looked at the Cardinals, they were the second place team. They weren't a powerhouse team, but they were a second place team. Normally, your worst team in your entire league is normally your worst team, and they normally don't win, especially when they're really, really bad. But he tried improving them over a certain time, and that's what happened. But these little moments that happen during a game, just to happen as a moment was really like a little unbelievable, especially that fake slap shot to the pass thing. Like, honestly, I don't know about that, but we get more moments like this during the movie too, that I just didn't find believable as well. So, so we go into that, and then they want to start making the playoffs, but I guess Coach Bombay really got into a little bit of a sneaky thing, which I don't like as a coach. As a coach, as a player, anything. He went to the league because he found out that Adam Banks, who plays on the Hawks, was in a different district. He was actually part of District 5 because Hans showed him that the league realigned things, and the borders were realigned. So the league would have to realign things. And so he went ahead and he put a protest in there to get Adam Banks off the Hawks. And, I think that was a kind of a crap move by the coach because you're basically taking the kid off the team that he enjoys playing for right now. Whereas, maybe they could have waited till the following year to do it. If that was me, I probably would have left it alone, just because, it's just kind of stupid. But it's just, but again, he said, well, you actually belong in District 5, you belong on the Ducks. So, they got a little mad about that. His old coach got mad at him. What are you trying to do? Coach Bombay is like, you have 100, what's one Banks going to matter to you when you have a full team of Adam Banks, and he's like, listen, and the coach is like, look, this kid really enjoys playing in a team, why do you have to do this and this and that and that? And in this case, the other coach I think was right, actually. I think it was just, I don't think he was necessarily mad, but Adam Banks is basically a star player, but and it was a matter of now, if Adam Banks plays, the Hawks forfeit every game that he plays in. So it's either he plays in the Ducks or he doesn't play at all. So basically they put the kid in a bad situation. When and we'll get into that in a minute, I guess. But it was a really bad situation. But Bombay says some wrong words to the coach where some of the kids hear it and they weren't happy. He's like, oh, maybe the kids are losers and this and that and that. And he's kind of just basically trying to be sarcastic and imitate his old coach. But the kids didn't like hearing it because it didn't get sarcasm. So like the kids decided they didn't want to play a game, and it was really only like Charlie out there or somebody else, and the kids, and I guess the Ducks forfeited their game, their next game. So he went ahead and he came back and he went to Charlie and he apologized to him about that, and and then Charlie was kind of like, oh, okay, and then again I guess he wanted to stay for dinner again because of the thing with his mom. But the Charlie would kind of was like, yeah, I really want you to be, to continue to be a coach, because because of this. And you know, because he was kind of like, you know, Bombay was kind of like, the kids don't trust me, I'm probably going to step down as coach. And he's like, no, you got to be our coach, this and that and that. And you know, it's kind of like kind of ridiculous. So we move on to the next scene because uh, Gordon Bombay is going back into his lawyer's firm, and from there, you know, he basically stepped down as coach at this point. Uh, but you know, I think from there, I guess he went to go get his job back, and he went in there, and his old coach, Coach Riley, was basically there putting a legal protest in, you know, to say, hey, legally, you know, why we need to keep Banks on the team. And I guess his father was there, you know, because they want to get the lawyer on there. Then they wanted to take legal action. We want to get Banks on the team, back on the team, and then next year the divisions will be realigned, and you could have Banks then, you know. And Bombay was like, oh, okay. And they're like, but you know, the league's agreed to this, and under one condition, you withdraw your protest. And Gordon Bombay is like, huh, okay. And they're like, oh, great, then it's settled. And he's like, no, I'm not withdrawing my protest. So then the Adam Banks' father gets mad, Coach Riley gets mad, and Bombay was actually fired for not withdrawing his protest. And you know, he basically told Mr. Ducksworth, he goes, you know, you may have a Ducks jersey, but you'll never be a Duck. So it's as simple as that. So it's kind of funny to see that he chose his kids over his job at this point. Very tough situation to be in, because you know, he did what was morally right at this point, and I like seeing that. And it's kind of his lesson that he learned is, you know, is do what's morally right. You know, on here, and I thought that was really cool. So you know, Banks gets into the Ducks locker room. Jesse's not too happy that Banks is there. But you know, Banks come in, and he's like, you know, Charlie was kind of like, hey, welcome to Ducks, but like Jesse's like, no, you're a cake eater. Which, if you know what a cake eater is, it's not a nice thing to say to somebody either. So you know, and you know, Banks was the bigger person. He's like, whatever, man, I just want to play hockey. So he understands that, you know, he has a choice. He doesn't really have a choice now: either play for the Ducks or don't play at all. And he's put into a bad spot, and it's unfortunate for him. But as it turns out, you know, later on, Banks ends up being like enjoying being in the Ducks. So we're going to the game, and there's a little unbelievable moment where they actually pulled the goalie. They pulled Goldberg because it's tied, and I'm sitting there. I was like, why are you pulling a goalie when it's tied? And Bombay explained that we're not going to make the playoffs with the tie. We need a win in order to make the playoffs. So we need to pull the goalie, and they did that. And you know, he came out there and he's like, all right, Fulton, I want you to take the shot. And sure enough, you know, Fulton takes a shot, and yeah, and then you know, and they win the game because Fulton's the extra man, and they win the game. And you know, it was great because Fulton's thing was 1 out of 5, but he did 1 out of 1 this time. So he rewarded the kids, you know, by getting them some free skate and some ice, you know, and then taking him to a Minnesota North Stars game. And we see Mike Modano as well as all the other North Stars on there, because Mike Modano at the time was the most popular North Star. And it was really cool. And, you know, one of the North Stars was like, oh yeah, listen to this guy Bombay. He knows what he's talking about. You know, I played Pee-wees with him, and it was really cool. And, you know, this guy had a future. And if you ever want a shot, you know, look, you know, call me and I'll help you out. So I was really nice, and the kids got to enjoy a game together. Banks was there. They saw a couple of Hawks there, and he kind of like was a little embarrassed to be there, but he was kind of like, just kind of rolled his eyes, and that was it. So that was really nice thing. And then I guess Charlie pushes Gordon Bombay to go back out with his mom. So there's a little nice moment, like a little date between Gordon Bombay and Charlie's mom, and there's like kind of like that almost kiss thing going on, which is really nice. And then we get to the Ducks as well, going into a championship. So they get through 2 teams to get to the championship. So like the Ducks are suddenly now a really good team, and they get to the championship versus the Hawks. And naturally, you know, the first thing that you know, you're thinking in your mind is what are they going to do here. Or what are the Hawks going to do? And of course, what the Hawks do is they play dirty and they want to take out the best player on the team, who just happens to be Banks. Because he is a guy that's basically brought him here now, brought the Ducks here because he's made a team so much better. Uh, as a player, I know where they are because I've been in championship games and I've been on a couple ends of it. They want to take out your best player, or I want to take out your best player, but they did it dirtily, like like dirtily, like not even a word, dirtily. They did it dirty. They took out Banks by like cross checking in from behind. That was a dirty way of doing it. There's other ways of taking out players if you're the best player of another team, like goading him into a fight is one way, or getting him to take stupid penalties this way he's kicked out of the game. That's the other way, and that's typically what. I'm not gonna say we've always done that. I mean, we haven't done it purposely, but we've had it happen, and we've had it happen to us too. And it's always not a bad thing because now you take out the best player and you have a better shot at beating the other team. So it's kind of a cheap way of winning, but again, it's also strategic as well when you're playing hockey. But they take Banks out, and Jesse's upset now because Banks, one of the Hawks players checks up on Banks just to make sure Banks is okay. And he looks at the other Hawk player and he goes, "What did you do?" And the other Hawk player is like, I did my job." And and I guess the other Hawk player was a little disappointed because Banks was like really hurt bad. Then Jesse comes over to Banks on the stretcher, and he's like, and Banks is kind of out of it. He's like, "Just do me one favor." And Jesse's like, "Oh, are you okay, man? What's that?" And he's like, "Kick Hawk butt for me." And Jesse and Banks were friends more or less from this point in time. So yeah, and then they don't have Banks, but and then Fulton gets taken out because I guess they take out they attack one of the girls or cross check one of the girls, and Fulton gets mad about that, and he goes after the kid on the bench. Uh, and he pulls him off the bench. So Fulton gets a game misconduct, so he's out. So now they're missing basically their two big weapons, which is Fulton and Banks. So now the Hawks are in a position to win. And it was up. I think we're up 3-0, and then the Ducks made it 3-1 and 3-2, and then the Hawks made it 4-2, and then there was 4-3, then there was 4-4, and then I guess. At this point, they did their whole, I guess they scored with the flying V, make it 4-4. I forgot who scored. I think it was Tammy. Was this Tammy scored one of the goals with the like figure skating move in one of the things. I don't remember who else scored in there. I can't remember. I can't remember who scored all the goals at this point in time. But but then we have so they did the flying V. That's the first time we were introduced to the flying V. It's kind of a neat little move. I probably would never try that move in a real hockey game myself, or I would never see an NHL team do that because it would be a little unbelievable. But hey, if it works, it works, and if you can make it happen, cool. And then we're in a 4-4 game, and with 1 second left, Charlie Conway is on the breakaway and he gets taken out. So sure enough, we're having a repeat moment of Gordon Bombay and his moment with his coach. And it was like and first of all, it's always unbelievable when that happens, but if it happens, you have to be thankful that it happens because now you have a chance to win the game. And I think that Coach Riley said something to the team earlier. He's like, if you lose this game, you're all off the team next year, right? He had the penalty shot, and Bombay just goes up to Charlie, and he goes, "Hey, the kids were a little disappointed that Charlie was taking a shot, but Bombay just goes, because it could have been anyone on the ice take the shot, so they're trying to figure out who wants to take the shot." And Bombay just goes, "What about Charlie?" And the kid's like, "Oh, are you kidding me?" Because Charlie was very bad on the breakaways because he just couldn't skate well, and he'd fall. And they're like, "Well, what about Charlie?" And they're like, and they were kind of like a little reluctant to have him. He's like, "Well, why don't we let Charlie finish what he started?" So it was like really a nice little gesture there. And then he kind of Bombay kind of remembered what Coach Riley said to him, and he was very like different with Charlie. He's like, "Hey, Charlie, you remember the triple deke?" we'll try to use that. And he's like, and Charlie was like, well, what if I miss? And Bombay was like, well, if you make it, you make it. If you miss, you miss. The point is, you're here. You're in a championship game. Look around. Like you guys got here. Like, I'm proud of you regardless. So it's like he gave like an emotional. I'm even getting emotional even saying something like that, because like these are the speeches that I would give my teammates as a captain. Even after we lost championship games, like we would come back and we would just be like, if we lost the game, everyone would be disappointed, and I'd be like, hey guys, don't be disappointed in yourselves. Like we could have been like a mid-tier team and we got to the championship game, or we could have been the best team and we could have got to the championship game. And I would have told them, regardless of what it is, I'm proud of all of you. Like, you guys did such an awesome job all season. We got here. Like the same thing. We got here. I'm proud of all of you. Like you should be proud of yourselves. We'll get them next season. And it's pretty much how it is. And then of course Charlie gets a penalty shot. He does his triple deke and he makes the shot. So I was really happy that and they win a championship. So I was really happy to see that they took that route, that they won a championship, because like the moment in itself was really nice and really special, and really meant a lot to the kids on there, and meant a lot movie wise. And it was really good to see that, because they could have won an option that he did the same thing and he missed a shot, and maybe Bombay would have been like, hey, don't be disappointed in yourself. You did the best you could. Here you are again, and he could have had that, but no, they decided to have him make a shot, which was really cool. And the Ducks win a championship. Funny enough that I'm thinking about that championship win, because I'm looking at the arena, and there's a pretty big arena for Pee Wee championship, because it was basically the size of, like, if I'm from New Jersey, so I've seen the Princeton Tigers play, and it was basically the size of the Hobie Baker Arena, which is not that big, but it's a college rink. So yeah. Then we get the end scene, and Hans is there. He tells Bombay how proud of him he is. He goes, he just basically tells him, hey Gordon, I just want you to know I'm proud of you. You did the right thing. And then I guess Bombay leaves on a bus, and he's getting a tryout with the Minnesota North Stars minor league affiliate, and then he goes up to Charlie's mom and kisses Charlie's mom, and he tells the Ducks, he goes, regardless of what happens with my tryout, I'll be back next season because we got a championship to defend, which I thought was really cool, because basically you're just foreshadowing to the fact that there's going to be a Mighty Ducks 2 at this point. So yeah, I mean, overall the movie was cool. It was a cool movie. It was a hockey movie. It was, there were some moments that were not believable. There were some moments that were believable. It just had a lot of feel good moments in here, that I thought were really nice. And it was a right movie. There were some things that I thought could have been left out of here, because I think just like the racism part, I think could have been left out of here, and stuff like that. That's one thing. But anyway, yeah, so I'm just reviewing the movie. I just basically gave you scene by scene. So yeah, there's my Mighty Ducks podcast. So I am now done reviewing the Mighty Ducks. If I were to give this movie anything, let's say out of 10, right? So let's just say I have to rate out of 10 stars for a movie. I want to give it an 8. I really want to give it an 8 because it was a really good movie for the Mighty Ducks. I'm actually curious to see what the movie rating is here for the Mighty Ducks, but I would give it an 8 out of 10. So let me just see Mighty Ducks. I just want to see Mighty Ducks movie rating, and I just want to see, because typically you would know to like so if you got in Rotten Tomatoes, wow, it actually got a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's really bad on Rotten Tomatoes. That's ouch. But a Common Sense, I guess, what is comments? What is, I don't know. This is a new movie site, isn't it? Common Sense Media, it says age 11 plus. Common Sense Media gave it a 3 out of 5. But IMDb gave it a 6.6 out of 10. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I don't know. There were some parts that I didn't like about it. I can understand why they would give it 6.6. I actually want to give it an 8 because I actually enjoyed the movie a lot. So yeah, there's my review of the Mighty Ducks and my rating of it. So yeah, stay tuned because I got a lot of other podcasts coming up. We have more guests that will be coming on podcasts. I think coming soon. I have some things that I'll be doing weekly, as well as reviews like this. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want, I have a Twitter, a Facebook, uh, an Instagram for the Nerd Culture Podcast. You can listen to us on Podbean. You could download it. You can listen to us on Spotify. I'm pretty sure I put this on Spotify as well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Leave me any feedback, comments, whatever, and I will see you guys at the next podcast. We will do Mighty Ducks 2 probably within a week or so. Maybe I'll get someone else to discuss Mighty Ducks 2 with me, just to give some good reactions. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.